Picture this, World War II is winding down like a broken music box, spewing out one last, ear-splitting note. Enter Koichi Shikishima, a reluctant kamikaze pilot with a conscience the size of a thimble. Dude fakes engine trouble to dodge a suicide mission, only to land on Oto Island and witness Godzilla, a giant lizard the size of a small skyscraper, throw a monster tantrum. Let's just say Top Gun this ain't. Fast forward a hot minute. Shikishima returns to Tokyo, which resembles a Hieronymus Bosch painting after a particularly rough tequila night. His folks? Toast. Guilt? Crushing him harder than a hydraulic press. To numb the pain, he adopts a war orphan named Akiko, because what's more therapeutic than raising a tiny human while the world burns, and hooks up with Noriko, a woman who lost her parents in the firebombing. Talk about a recipe for a dysfunctional sitcom. Meanwhile, Godzilla, apparently a big fan of American reality TV, decides to spice things up by getting juiced on some nuclear waste from the Bikini Atoll tests. Think of it as Godzilla's extreme makeover, gone wrong phase. He starts throwing a radioactive tantrum across the Pacific, sinking ships like they're metaphorical teacups. The US, ever the helpful neighbor, offers Japan a bunch of rusty old warships, because who needs friends when you have passive-aggressive frenemies? Back in Shikishima land, life's a roller coaster, the emotional kind that makes you want to hurl. He's dodging radioactive lizards while dodging the emotional fallout of survivor's guilt. It's enough to make a grown man-child crawl back into his mom's basement, except his mom's basement is a pile of rubble, thanks Godzilla. Things take a turn for the wacky when Shikishima's crewmate, Noda, hatches a plan to sink Godzilla with the buoyancy of a soggy potato chip. Picture this, they lure Godzilla out to sea with a flotilla of deflated destroyers and then, surrounded with Freon tanks? Apparently, Noda got his monster-killing tips from a particularly deranged episode of Mythbusters. As a backup plan, they have a bunch of balloons to inflate Godzilla like a rogue Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade float. The question is, will this kaiju end up with a killer decompression sickness or a one-way ticket to balloon heaven? Meanwhile, Shikishima reunites with his old mechanic, Tachibana, who's about as thrilled to see him as a cat is to see a cucumber. Turns out, Tachibana isn't a big fan of kamikaze pilots who fake engine trouble, shocking, right? But hey, desperate times call for desperate measures, so Shikishima convinces Tachibana to fix up a dusty old fighter jet for a one-way trip into Godzilla's mouth. Because apparently, subtlety isn't on the menu today. The climax is a glorious clusterfudge of explosions, cheesy heroism, and enough collateral damage to make an insurance adjuster faint. Shikishima lures Godzilla into the Freon trap, because hey, why not, which, surprise surprise, doesn't work. But all hope isn't lost. Shikishima, channeling his inner maverick, minus the charm and the functioning fighter jet, crashes his plane into Godzilla's mouth, causing the giant lizard to literally blow a metaphorical gasket. The good news? Godzilla is toast. The bad news? Godzilla might just be taking a power nap at the bottom of the ocean, because a little chunk of his flesh is regenerating like a rogue chia pet. But hey, at least Shikishima gets a happy ending. Sort of. He reunites with Noriko, who miraculously survived the Godzilla rampage, although she might want to get that suspicious bruise on her neck checked out. So, there you have it. Godzilla Minus One, a wild ride through post-war Japan, where the only thing bigger than the monsters are the emotional baggage and the questionable life choices. Just remember, folks, when facing a giant radioactive lizard, Freon tanks and explosive kamikaze missions might not be your best bet. Maybe try therapy first?